We need to have a specific boo Michael Oliver button because
let's start with, please. I don't know if my theory is that this is not 100% true, but please don't send threats to anyone really, but in particular, don't send threats to a referee.
Or roast jokes.
Yeah. Also, don't send roast jokes to, you know what? DM us and we'll tell you not to send roast
We'll
jokes.
go over your roast jokes before you send them to the referee. No, Arsenal 1-0 win over Wolves, but
there's like two. By the way, there's two sets of fans. When some that were like, "Aha, we got screwed over and we still won," and then me, which is like people like me who are like, why did this win still feel like a loss somehow?
Yeah. I mean, look,
it was like brutal.
Because it was more difficult than it should have been.
Way more difficult, bro. It's Wolves.
It's Wolves. They're in the relegation zone. They shouldn't be worried about it that much. But the red card to Miles Lewis-Skelly, MLS.
The best MLS.
The best MLS. And then, I mean, obviously, if you didn't see it, he's stopping a promising attack that's happening in Arsenal's sort of own half or Wolves' own half or
Wolves'
whatever.
own half. It's still at the halfway line.
It's a counter.
Yeah.
And Miles Lewis-Skelly puts a leg out, gets
Studs
some contact.
kind of graze the side of the leg, but nothing crazy. If you watch it in slow motion, maybe it looks worse, but in real time, anyone with eyes could see this wasn't a dangerous tackle by any stretch of the imagination. There was no intent to harm. There were defenders everywhere. This wasn't dogs, so by any stretch of the imagination, they were way too far. And yet somehow, Martin Oliver still finds a way.
Michael
Oliver, still finds a way to give him a red card. And VAR doesn't overturn it, which everyone on the call was like, this right, get overturned in VAR.
Mm-hmm.
And yet it doesn't happen. And what happens when something like that goes down is the subset of fans that truly believe that the league is somehow corrupt, or every fan base believes there's some referee that's against them, but in particular, some Arsenal fans really believe that there is a conspiracy against them. And then you show people stuff like this and you think to yourself, well, I don't have a way to prove to you that there isn't.
Right. We're looking at the still, and obviously it doesn't do it justice.
These are probably two of the worst stills.
But this is
it's a professional foul.
People are kind of going a little wild, being like, this is the worst call in Premier League history. And I'm like, all right, kind of slow it down. I mean, we've had some really, really bad ones within recent history. But this was when you look at it, and you're looking at the points of contact right now, and it's like he gets kind of the side of the leg, some of the ankle, some of the upper kind of top of the boot. Nope, doesn't stamp on the foot, doesn't really get him with any crazy excessive force. When we're watching this game together, and we're just like, all right, cool, yeah. I mean, foul, whatever. Like, this would be a nice little yellow, and we'll keep it moving. And when Michael Oliver took out that red card, it was like, bro, did you see what we just saw? Like, and Michael Oliver is 2-3 feet behind the actual challenge.
The best view besides MLS.
Yeah. So he is clearly seeing what happened. And maybe in that angle, maybe he thinks the contact happened. It's obviously very fast, bang, bang, play. Maybe he thinks the contact happened.
The point is VAR doesn't change. I don't know how VAR doesn't overturn this. And now you have former players going absolutely wild. So for me, one of the things that I've heard is, I think Ian Wright mentioned it, but some former players have said, there needs to be a former player in the VAR room. And maybe it's someone who's qualified. They've done something to qualify themselves to be in that VAR room as a former player, almost as an ambassador to, let me explain to you from someone who played the game at this high level, what is happening here. That was not intent to harm. That was not a dangerous play. That was simply a professional foul. You cannot call that a red. I don't know if that overweighs the VAR, but maybe it's a voice in that room to be like, what the hell are you doing?
Well, I mean, my thought on that is it's generally a terrible idea. I don't necessarily think a player can offer more insight than a referee who's obviously ref tons of matches.
That might be one of the wildest takes I've heard on the show.
I don't think so at all.
You don't think a player the guy who would have made this tackle or the guy who would have been tackled this way.
So okay, let's give some credit to referees. They obviously, to get to this point, they have ref clearly. I'm going to say thousands of matches, but clearly hundreds of matches to get to that point, and even just to be a VAR. And it's not just the VAR; it is the assistant VAR as well that also can weigh in. I don't understand how PGMOL referees who have all this experience look at Michael Oliver. I can understand calling the red. Like, it's okay to make mistakes. I understand the angle, the speed.
Why we have the technology is to avoid the mistake from being officialized.
Two VARs, the head VAR and the assistant VAR, saw this and was like, yeah, I agree with Michael Oliver here. This is a red card. This was a dangerous challenge. This was serious foul play. That is insane to me, and I don't know how a player could tell those other two guys.
Because now you have the PGMOL coming out and saying we agree with the VAR decision, we agree with the decision, because they don't want to bury their own guy. But you have, I've not heard.
Have in the past?
In the past, they said a mistake has been made or whatever. This seems like a bit of a different situation because of the threats that are going around. It seems like it's gotten a bit more touchy. But you have every former player, even people that were not Arsenal players, people that were Tottenham players, coming out and saying, under no circumstances is that a red. And yet you're saying that you don't think one of those guys being in the room would at least been able to be just a voice of reason in this situation.
No,
when you have the VAR, the assistant VAR, the ref, and the PGMOL all hiding behind the thin blue line of silence.
They are qualified enough to get this right.
I think you're literally talking about a situation where they should have gotten it right and they didn't. And yet you still think they're qualified to do that job.
These particular refs got it wrong. But they should be qualified to get this right. I understand the center referee getting it wrong.
Until we get that, until we get fully qualified VAR, where the secondary, the safety net does its job and actually gets these calls right. You don't think having a former player in that room would have helped in this situation?
No, because the bar will always just keep getting moved, because it's going to be, so two VARs. Now we have the former player. Now, and then it's like, oh, well, what if the former player doesn't really have the opinion that we sort of think is correct? Do we have another former player to check on that former player? And do we have another former player?
You want former player internal affairs?
It just never ends. Those two VARs I'm more upset with them. That's ridiculous that they can see that on camera and not even tell Michael Oliver to go take a look. That's crazy to me.